A beautiful day to you. Welcome. This is the daily headline newspaper update on the Insider Podcast. I am Kayode Sonny, and with me I have The Nation, The Guardian newspaper, The Punch newspaper, Vanguard, Business Day, and outside of Nigeria, The Daily Mirror. And on the front page of Vanguard newspaper today on page 5, the big story, economic crisis, slump in port operations puts 40,000 jobs at risk, says investigation. Cargo imports drop by 20%, containerized goods 30%, and vehicles 55% as vessels calls reduce. Vessels that brought in 4,000 containers now come with 300. Terminal operators, shipping companies, others in dilemma. Labor worries over workers' faith. On page 19 of the Vanguard, retail sales volume down 50% in 1 year. Supermarket owners. On page 8, Wike to Kingibe will unseat you in 2027. On page 26, 2024 Hajj. Our federal government, 8 states splashed 100.6 billion naira on pilgrims. On page 9, federal government sacks 3 contractors handling Obajana Benin Road. On page 9, SDGs, 63% of Nigerians still wallow in poverty. That's coming from Tinubu's aid. On page 14, Goza attacks. Shatima visits as ACF Southern senators want action against terror. On page 6, Customs impounds container load of rifles from Turkey at One. On page 30, on the sports page, Lookman shines in Ghana Football Awards in Accra, wins Best African International Footballer. Now to the Punch newspaper today. On page 21, the big story, Dangote Fuel. Marketers fear high-priced petrol ahead of supply. With riders, crude price will determine cost of Dangote PMS, Ipman warned federal government. Imported crude makes production costs higher, may affect petrol price. That's coming from Dangote source. And on page 2, federal government revokes 870 billion naira road contracts, 2,270 projects suffer delay. On page 7, Kano plans appeal after losing 1 billion naira suit against federal government. On page 7, INEC lacks power to conduct local government elections. Yakubu. On page 12, Borno bombing death toll hits 32, 14 survivors discharged. And to some other stories, on page 14 is this one. Customs sees 18 billion naira firearms, drugs from Turkey, recover 844 rifles. On page 26, Lagos, Oguntob as internet users hit 164 million. On pages 4 and 5, 27 killed, others injured in Kano, Ogun auto crashes. On page 21, recapitalization, bank directors acquire 39 billion naira shares. And those are all the headlines from the front page of the Punch newspaper. Now moving on to Business Day, the big story here, CBN reforms drive investment inflows to 4-year high, with riders capital triples to $3.4 billion in 1 year. Anambra, Ogun, Kano, others record no investment. Also on the front page of Business Day, airline staff touts cashing on plane shortage. And we see this 1 year, Kogi, Kano, or your others will struggle to pay new minimum wage, says report. On page 4, business activity hits 7-month low as import slows. On page 7, give jobs to Nigerian firms with capacity. Nestle boss urges federal government. And now to the Nation newspaper. We're seeing this one here. 1 million applicants seek 1.3 trillion naira consumer credit loan. On page 2, Customs impounds 844 rifles, 112,500 ammunition, drugs, with rider 40-foot evil container brought in from Turkey. And now to the Guardian newspaper this morning, the big story here on page 6, legacy debts among operators stifle telecom sector, service delivery. On page 4, court orders release of man after 15 years in prison without charge trial. On page 16 of the business page, capital importation rises by 198% in 1 year as FDI lags. On page 7, federal government terminates contracts with Mothercat, Dantata, others over non-performance. On page 2, 25 die, 53 injured in Kano trailer accident. On page 4, federal government no longer interested in Nigeria Air, ET affirms. On page 6, PwC raises concerns over Nigeria's 121.6 trillion naira debt rising deficit. And also on page 3, Nigeria police wasn't established to succeed, Senate leader says. On the editorial page of the Guardian newspaper, journalists' arbitrary arrest, detention, and nepotism. On page 28, Borno bombing death toll rises to 31. And now to the Daily Mirror today, we have this one. England holds its breath. Heroes ban fear for hero Jude after goal gesture. Also, exclusive, Gordon Brown, give our children hope. Ex-Prime Minister urges voters to back Labour and end scandal of kicks growing up in poverty. Those are all the headlines on the front page of the newspapers today. Thank you for tuning in, and please don't forget to send in your reaction or comment in the question and answer box below this post. My name is Kayode Sonny. See you next time.